Good afternoon. And I am sitting here with great joy and pleasure to have, no disrespect to my other guests, but this guest right here is what has always been one of my favorites. But here we are, ONB, Fort Wayne up close. I'm your host, JJ Foster. But here we are once again, Gary, bringing you history. So I know I can't hear the applause from you guys, but please put your hands together. Let's welcome the esteemed Mayor Sharon Tucker.
Good afternoon. Hello.
Miss Tucker, you're the 37th mayor of this here city.
Right.
I do my research before I bring everybody on.
Okay.
I saw it said the first black mayor. So, at first I'm thinking, now is she the first black? Have we had another female? There's a caveat. You shaking your head, so you know the caveat. Tell the people how close you were to becoming the first female mayor.
11 days.
11 days.
Back in the Win Moses administration, Win had to step down for a brief moment, and at that time, Cosette Simpson was caucused in as the mayor, and she would qualify as the first female mayor of the city of Fort Wayne. She served for 11 days, and then the Democrat caucus re-elected Win Moses to fill his seat completely.
All righty, so 11 days, and you would have been right there. And I actually got stymied because, I like catching little things like that when people say that, because I know Madam C.J. Walker, people used to say the first black female millionaire, when in reality she was the first female millionaire. So
right.
I thought I had him again, but I got stymied. I found out about Cosette again. So
yeah, Miss Cosette Simon.
Yeah. You were county council, city council. Mm-hmm. You've been in politics. Did you have any aspirations of being mayor?
I did. Always thought about what the future would be for, and every politician does. They think about what's the future for me? Is there an opportunity? Our community, the setup of the way politics are, and we're still a very old school community. We hold on to our old values and old roots. And so I'd always desired to want to be mayor. Wasn't quite sure how an opportunity would open, but always tried to make sure that I was prepared with wisdom, knowledge, the way you treat people in case there would be an opportunity. And I've talked to my family about the if an opportunity ever came up for me to run for mayor, that I would take it.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So the old adage, stay ready, you don't have to get ready.
Right.
That's what I just heard you say. You took over for Mayor Tom Henry.
Yeah.
Obviously, 16 years as mayor. So that means he did a lot of good things. Mm-hmm. He got things across party lines, obviously. Mm-hmm. A lot of initiative. He put Fort Wayne on the national map with a lot of the things that are going on downtown.
Right.
Talk to us. Are you going to continue the initiatives that he has going on, and what are some of your own ideas and plans that you have?
So yes, Mayor Henry elected 5 times, which is kind of unique in a very red county. Our county is extremely red, and our city has held on to Democratic mayoral control for over 20 years. And so for a Democrat to win in this very red community, you have to be able to have support from across the aisle. It's just no way to make it work. No other way to make it work is to be able to work across the aisle to get your initiatives and your achievements done. And so Mayor Henry was very successful in being able to see the ball diamond come to completion for the city of Fort Wayne, which is one of the things that was the catalyst to start the success that we see in all of downtown. And as I have now stepped into the role of mayor, I will continue to keep the downtown pace that we see, the growth that we're seeing moving forward. But I also believe that it is an opportunity for us now to invest into our neighborhoods as well. I don't think that it has to be an either or. I think that it can be a both and. While we can invest into our communities, looking at all our quadrants and recognizing each of our districts for what they are. Our city of Fort Wayne is each neighborhood has its own little niche, its own little identity. And so respecting that identity is what we would like to do as we work to invest into each community. So that's one of the things that I want to be able to do by adding in neighborhood liaisons. That's bringing back a person whose role it is to focus on neighborhoods. When we go into your neighborhood, JJ, what's your concern? What's your desire? Well, you want it to be walkable. You want it to be safe, and you want to be able to get the amenities that you need in your community without having to go all the way on the other side of town. And looking at how we can make that happen for you by having representation at your neighborhood association meetings to gather information and then bring that data back to the administration so we can work as a collective team to make those changes happen that we hear from those meetings. And so that's what neighborhood liaisons do. That's one of the focus points for me. I am a people person, and so I'm always worried about making sure that we are identifying people when we're creating projects. It's great that we have all these great buildings. It's great that we have the parks, but if we don't create a space where people can see themselves in those buildings and parks, then it would all be for naught. And so that's the largest part of what I see as my individual contribution to the success that we've seen from Mayor Henry.
All right, perfect. And you actually touched on some stuff that I was going to ask.
Okay.
When I go out in the community and I moderate some of these groups, I always use, I said, you're only as strong as your weakest community. Mm-hmm. So basically that's what you're talking about, making sure everybody gets a piece of the pie.
Yeah.
Which is, kind of been some discussions, throughout all this progress that we've made downtown. There has been certain segments that have talked about, what about us? What about us?
And I live in one, and I represent one where for many, many years, the lack of investment into my district at the time when I was on council was the 6th district. And so in 4 short years, I would like to say that we made an impact. And I say we because I know it wasn't just me. It was Mayor Henry. It was having supportive voices on the council at the same time. And it was the neighborhood and the neighborhood association. And what was different between me and the council person that whose shoes I replaced is I took a different approach to press for change in the 6th district, and that helped us bring in 2 new parks into the 6th district. It helped us bring in a access to food. It helped us bring in and revitalize an area that had started to be built. When we talk about Southtown Center, that had started to be built, and then it kind of quieted down because we just had 2 places out there. Mm-hmm. Well, now we're seeing more activity happen with Linda Golden just cutting the ribbon on her Legacy One building, which is also housing entrepreneurs outside of the space. We have a healthcare emergency care clinic that's opening up southeast. And then my personal favorite is the Starbucks that's opening southeast. And I go to that Starbucks almost every single day to help keep the economic development spurring. But that's just the southern part of the community. There are other areas within the district that we were successful in being able to make economic development and change so that we can change the narrative that, hey, what about us? And while there's still many, many more things we could do, you just have to always be willing to be open to hear both what the community desires and what developers desire, because contrary to what people think, the city is not in the business of owning businesses or running businesses. We're in the business of selling all of the assets that we have, telling the story about how great Fort Wayne is so that developers, entrepreneurs, and risk takers are willing to come into our city and invest in the city.
Okay, awesome. Now, you talked about us being a red city, red state. Mm-hmm. And we talked about, obviously, Mayor Tom Henry and his run had stepped across those lines. I know in the process of you becoming mayor, 7 candidates on the Democratic side, correct? Yeah. And that's where the nod came from. Was there any talks, some of our power players in this city, are on that other side. Were there any type of talks that you have to have prior to sitting in your seat, or have you had those talks?
So we're creeping up on 100 days of my term, and a lot of people go, "Oh, what are you going to do in the first 100 days?" Because of the non-traditional way that I became mayor, my first 100 days have been a combination of the 45-day runway that some people get and trying to build up and clean up at the same time, build those relationships, clean up some of the relationships so that we can get out, right? So that people will know us. So before the caucus, not a whole lot of talks because the individuals that I had to spend time with were the 100 Democratic precinct chairs and asked for their support. After earning that support and getting the opportunity to be mayor, I've been on a campaign to meet as many people as I can in the business community and in the community as a whole, because a couple of things that I know, those in my district and in the 6th district, they know, love, and accept me. In other communities, if you're not tied to politics, you wouldn't have any idea who is a Sharon Tucker, right? People who have to come before city council know who Sharon Tucker is to a degree, but they don't know me in the role, in my new role. And so I have been diligently working to try to make sure that I get an opportunity to meet as many people as I can because I get it.
Okay.
I'm different. I get it. I'm a brown-skinned girl. I'm a woman. And in this community, it's always been a non-brown-skinned person and non-woman leading our city. And so that's making a lot of people nervous. And it's making a lot of people wonder, who is she? What is she going to do? My African-American brothers and sisters are wondering, is she going to be real black? My non-African-American brother and sisters are wondering, is she going to be real black? And so everybody's trying to figure out who is Sharon. And at the end of the day, I just want to be Sharon. I want to be the mayor. I want to be the person that I was before, the person who you could walk up to in the grocery store and give you a smile and a hug and a conversation. And I want to hold on to that. I know that I have a larger group of people that I need to do that with, but I still care that people care. And I don't want to lose that feeling or that connection to community. And so I get it. I get it.
And just looking at your track record and knowing you, who you are, watching you, I've seen you on county council, I've seen you at city council, work with you when you were at the bank. You know, you were always, I mean, I know you know how to navigate everything that you just said. You know how to talk this language over here, you know how to talk this language over here. And at the end of the day, it shouldn't matter what color somebody is, what gender somebody is, as long as they have Fort Wayne's best interest at heart.
Yeah.
So I hope your, 4-year audition, you know, is going to go well. But yeah, those are tough waters.
Right.
What about some of your projects that you had? Project Activate Southeast Fort Wayne, is that still going on?
You know, PACE, Project Activate Southeast Fort Wayne, is still near and dear to my heart. And yes, it is still going on. And thank you for asking me that question, because you'll give me an opportunity to explain to people what's happening. Project Activate Southeast Fort Wayne was a pitch competition and is a pitch competition where entrepreneurs got a chance to compete for a $150,000 investment into their business. And it had to be located in the southern portion of Southeast, or the 6th District. We had 2 competitions and we have 2 winners. I have funding sitting in the bank waiting on them to activate their space. And so you would say, well, what's the problem, Sharon? The problem is that in Southeast Fort Wayne, when we were in our season of taking down dilapidated buildings, we took down everything. We have lots of green spaces, but no extra spaces where people can just go in and renovate. And so we did not realize that when we created this project to activate, that there's no place for people to go unless they have the financial means to build new. If you're doing a restaurant, it's hard to put a restaurant in the middle of a neighborhood. Like, you can renovate a house and put it in the middle of the neighborhood, but it's hard for that restaurant to be successful if it's not on a traffic pattern. And if it's not on a traffic pattern where people can see it and feel safe coming into it, they're not going to get the support that they need from the community for it to be successful. So we need the restaurant to be on a high traffic community area, and there's no buildings there. And so we've been trying to figure out, how can we build a building? How can we sponsor to get it started so that we can activate Southeast like we wanted to, like we intended to when we started the program. The second location and the individual that run one, she wanted to activate a cigar lounge, and she won. But there's limitations around smoking, right? Yeah. There's limitations around smoking. You can't smoke within the city limits inside a building. So we have tried to have creative ways to rethink this for her and opportunities for her. But at the end of the day, it's her business and it's her business plan. And she has to be willing to accept the adaptation of change. And so we're still working with her to try to figure out what that looks like to change her business, since we know we can't change the law. We attempted different ways, but we know we can't change the law. But yet again, there we are with a limited location. Okay. Location is the problem. So in lieu of having the third and fourth competitions, I have not asked another philanthropist community to donate into that funds, because I don't think it's fair for me to hold up money. Right now I have $400,000 in an account that's waiting to activate. And I don't think it's fair for me to just keep asking the philanthropy community to donate to the project just to have money held in an account where that money could be being used to keep other non-for-profits floating right now. So we didn't do the competition last year, because I want to get these two activated, and I probably will not do it this year because I haven't gotten those two activated. But once we get them activated, then we can go back to the prime the pump again, raise the dollars again, and then keep moving forward. But I'm still committed to making sure that we activate Southeast Fort Wayne, and the cry that is being heard right now is dining. People want a restaurant, Southeast Fort Wayne, to sit down and enjoy a meal. And I don't want to take away from Mr. Marvin, I believe, at Renaissance Restaurant, but they're looking for additional options. And
gotcha. Now, you said hey, there's funding. Now, I know people probably laughing because they know
you the business guy.
my wheelhouse is home mortgages. Mm-hmm. And right now, I tell people, I'm screaming from the highest mountaintop. Average salary of Southeast Fort Wayne is, I don't have to tell you, is what, $29,000? Mm-hmm. Where are those folks, where can they afford to live? Mm-hmm. Have you thought about anything like down payment assistance or something? Right now, they're not building anything for under $200,000. Right. Which leaves these people in them. I'm talking about grade A credit, good jobs, but there's not a lot of inventory out there in regards to homes. Mm-hmm. Has that come across your desk? Could that be an option for these funds?
It came across for the Project Activate PACE funds.
Sure.
It cannot, and the reason that it cannot be, with tongue in cheek, maybe I'll say it like that. The reason that I say it cannot at first is because I believe in, if you say you're going to do something, that's what you're supposed to do. So when I asked the individuals to donate the money to me, I gave them what I was going to do with the funds. And so I believe that it would be unjust and unhonest of me to take those funds and do something different.
Gotcha. Well, for clarity, I mean, like you said, you have funders. I was just saying, if you went back and revisited with them, said, like you said, I'm on a holding pattern over here, moving forward, this is a need, this is a niche. That's kind of what I was saying.
So remember, though, the PACE project was designed to activate amenities for, like, put entrepreneurs in business in Southeast Fort Wayne. Housing, we've been working on building housing, attacking housing, but the thing that Southeast Fort Wayne was missing and is missing are the basic amenities that you get in other quadrants. And what am I talking about? When you go to let's just look at when you go southwest and you're not too far from dog grooming, dry cleaning, I don't want to say beauty shop because we do have a plethora of those Southeast Fort Wayne, but things that you need on a day-to-day basis. You can go somewhere within the distance, including dining, and get those things. You have several options of coffee, whether you're going to the Mocha Lounge or whether you're going to Starbucks or whether you're going to a individually owned coffee shop. You have several options there. You have several options of different amenities that you need, whether it's going to buy a uniform or shoes or some sort of service that you want done. Southeast Fort Wayne, all of those services are outside of the district. So you have to, our dollar flows out of our community and it never gets to cycle back into our community where other communities' dollars cycle back in. And so the purpose of PACE was to create those amenities so that our dollar could cycle back into our community, thereby raising our tax contribution to the taxing pool and bringing our economy Southeast Fort Wayne up, which attracts other development. No developer wants to go into an area where he's the sole business because it's a risk factor that they're taking, and that risk sometimes, if they can't sustain it, will cause them to go under. But when there's successful development, it begot success, which is why you see what we see downtown. And so how do we make it so that homeowners, because that's really one of the bigger concerns. How do we make it so that homeowners have an opportunity to take advantage in what we call the American dream? And part of what we have to consider when we are creating an environment for home development, because that's the thing that people should also recognize and know, is that municipalities, they don't control the development. They just create an environment for it. So the example that we did was when you look at house investments, they're building all of those apartment complexes at McKinney and Anthony. We didn't put it there, but we created the environment. We cleaned down the dilapidated buildings that were there. We updated the infrastructure in the ground. That's a city responsibility. We put in street lights. That's a city responsibility. And then we put out an RFP. Hey, we have 100 acres of land. Who's interested in building in this area? And then if we have the opportunity, when someone brings in that RFP, we work with them to help them navigate the space of permitting, navigate the space of zoning. That's a city, but they're putting the investment in. And so when we look at homes, it's a little bit different because home ownership is an individual purchase unless it's a developer that's developing an entire project like Jerry Starks did. It was very instrumental in helping Jerry get Roosevelt Reserves done, helping him get in contact with the people that he needed to get in contact with to move the development. And so you say, well, how do you do that? Well, one of the most expensive things that people don't know when they're building is the stuff that's in the dirt, coming out of the dirt, which the kids use a lot right now. That's your sewer lines, your water lines, your electrical. All that stuff costs a lot of money and no one ever sees it. But those are things that the city will partner with you on to work. We won't give you the money to build the houses, but we will partner with you to improve the infrastructure, because when the infrastructure is improved in one area, it just helps the city as a whole. Okay. And so when you talk about home ownership, that's some of the things that we look at when we're doing big projects. We can do economy of scale and make it fit. But for individuals, we are unable to do the economy of scale. But we do love it when we have partners with banks that will do first-time homeowners. Or reduce mortgage rates for individuals so that they can buy the houses when a developer is building the houses.
Gotcha. And that's what it's going to take, is partnership and collaboration. Mm-hmm. Like you said, lenders that have programs with down payment assistance, forgivable loans, all these type of things. So I'm glad that you said that.
Let me add one more part to it, JJ, and I'm sorry, I don't want to hog it all up because I feel like I've been talking a lot, but I can't because I'm passionate about it and I love it. But it also matters, too, with our federal programs. This is why voting matters a lot as well, because Federal dollars will come down from, for example, HUD. HUD will give the city of Fort Wayne funding, and then they'll put guidelines around what we can do with that funding, right? In years past, we used to be able to get funding where we could do first-time home buyer programs that would be sponsored by a city department. Sometimes, one time we had what was called the Neighborhood Stabilization Program, NSP, where they would take houses that had been foreclosed on, renovate those houses, and then sell those houses to individuals for zero loan, or for you had to promise to be in the house for 5 years, and then you didn't have to pay the money back for for the money that was used to renovate it. So those programs were funded from federal dollars that had specific guidelines around them. When the city receives funds like those, that's when we can run programs that give to homeownership. But it all depends on the source of funding and the rules that are around it. And a lot of times people are unaware of that from if you don't work within the city government.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, we definitely need to get back to some of those programs. Mm-hmm. You guys just got a grant, 3.8. What is that money earmarked for? Is that infrastructure? Actually, I heard Mr. Perlick on the radio. I'm gonna drive over.
3.8.
Yeah.
I am not familiar with which grant it is because it comes from. Do you know the name of the grant? That might help me.
Now, I know he talked about hitting all the corridors. What kind of sounded like some infrastructure type stuff.
Okay, so why don't I just hit that? Because it does depend on where the funding comes from. I'm not familiar with the 3.8 grant name, but if it is a corridor grant, it would be used for making sure that our curbs, sidewalks, and sewer systems are updated and corrected. It really just depends on what the source of funding is. So just like other non-for-profit entities that apply to the city or apply to different foundations for money, the city applies for grants to the federal government. And if the federal government has a grant for, let's say, dog walking, right? We might apply for that grant to do dog walking, and if we receive the money, we'll announce in the news that the city got $50,000, but we can only use that $50,000 to do dog walking.
Gotcha.
And so any money that we receive when it's a grant-funded application like that can only be used for specific reasoning. So we would have applied for a grant to update our corridors, and then that money can only be used to update the corridors.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. I heard, too, the PepsiCo building. You guys looking to get that for the River Greenway over on Whale Street.
Mm-hmm.
And then I saw where it went to council and 43.
Yeah.
They talked about property taxes.
Don't hurt my feelings.
And appraisal. Now, it made me think, because I know what goes on nationally or federally,
mm-hmm.
Is that a problem? Was that legitimate? Are there legitimate concerns? Is this going to get passed? It's going to be something we can buy the building? Or, they talked about the property taxes for the citizens. It was too high, and it was going to be paid over appraisal. Was that legit?
Absolutely.
Or is it some squabbles?
It just depends on what side of the argument you're on. So this is what I love about my life. I served 9 years. I said 10, but I had to go back and recount it. I served 5 on county council, okay. 4 years, 4 months on city council. So 9 years. I served 9 years in government on that side. Now I'm on the administrative side. And one of the things that I feel most proud of is I got understanding from both sides now. And I see how it works from both perspectives. From the county or from the city council perspective, we came down with a request to purchase a building. We're the only ones that can spend money. The mayor's office is the only one that can spend money with the council's approval, right? The council can't spend money, but they approve the spending of money. So department went out, said, hey, we want this building. It's the last piece we need to make this project work. They have to get appraisals. the appraisals come in and they have to take the average of the three. When the appraisal came in, they went to the building owner and said, we'd like to buy the building to finish our project. And the building owner said, yes. And guess what? I want to sell it to you for this amount of money, which was over the amount that the appraisal was. And so the question becomes, is it worth that to us to go to council to say, hey, we want to buy this building and it's a little bit over what the appraisal came in for? And in this case, with the work that we've done on the river and the promenade and updating our riverfront projects, it absolutely is worth it. This is the last piece we need to make this project complete. It was only $70,000 over asking price. And I say only now. If I was down on council, I would have been like, $70,000. So I get it, right? Okay, so we go to council and we say, hey, here's the purchase we'd like to do. It's $70,000 over. Will you approve it for us? And council said no. Council said, nope. We're tired of overpaying. We've overpaid for several other buildings that we've had in the past. And this time they did not give us the grace that we would like to have had to make it happen. So we pulled the request before they did the final vote, because once you do a final no vote, then we have to wait a year unless something significant changes on the request. And hopefully that'll give us some time to either rethink how we can go about getting this piece of land or have conversations with council to help them understand the value of this last piece of land. These two things should work simultaneous in conversations with each other, and that's what we need to do. We need to better understand the weak points for our ask and the strong points for their argument. Gotcha. So that we can work together.
So how is the relationship with council, though? Take the folks behind that. I mean, is it like you said, you can ask for something, they can say no. I mean, do you typically come together? Is our city council one that works together, or do we get a lot of deadlocks? Do we get stuff turned down? How is it? Are we working together?
We do work together. This is probably, and this one probably hurt more than any, because this is probably the first time that we've received a no vote from council on anything. And this is what goes to having to be a middle of the road, work across the aisle, and the importance of local government being party, right? Because when you talk about all the work that Mayor Henry's been able to get done, when you look at the projects that we're working on now under Mayor Tucker, Democratic mayors, and most of the time, fully Republican councils. My term was the first term in a long, long time that there were 4 Democrats on the council. So you have to be willing to reach across the aisle, compromise to get projects done in our community. And that's one of the reasons that we've been successful at holding on to the seat as a Democrat, to the mayor's seat as a Democrat, because we have been able to help reach across the aisle to make projects happen. Is there contention between city council and the mayor's office? My answer would be no, because I literally was just sitting at that table less than 100 days ago with those individuals. And the things that I cared about then didn't leave just because my title changed. I cared about good government. I cared about making sure that we were spending taxpayers' dollars wisely. And it didn't change just because I became mayor. And in fact, some would be surprised to know that under Mayor Henry, with all that he got done, there probably was more tension between council then than there is now. I think our error was that we didn't have enough conversations before we brought our request to the council table.
Okay. Well, see, sounds like you got a plan. I've heard that before too. Women in Politics. Is that a group that you started? Did you found that?
I did.
Okay.
I did. Uh-huh.
And so I bring that up because then I look, and it seems to be a lot more females that are involved in our county and our city. Mm-hmm. Is that something that, do we pat you on the back? Or do you take credit for that?
I have a hard time. I'm a we person. I like to, everybody gets a little bit of the credit. I started the Women in Politics Forum to give women a space to come and talk. Because when I ran for office the first time, there was nobody for me to go to and kind of cry like, oh man, this happened to me. And guys don't understand it, right? Guys don't understand that they said your skirt's too short or you don't have hose on. Guys don't understand that. So I wanted a place for women to be able to come together and talk, and we all understand the impact of being involved in politics and how it affects women. And so that program ran for 5 years, and then I gave it a year or two break with COVID, and I bought it back, and it's still picked up from the place it left. It picked up to where it is now, but I've kind of modified it so it's just not about politics. With the capital P, it's about politics with a little p. This year, the conversation was around media and what it's like for women to be involved in media and the little p politics that they play with. Last year, I had judges and attorneys on the panel, and it was about the little p politics that happen to judges and attorneys when you talk about women being involved in politics. And from that, I became a partner with AVOW, which is Advancing the Voices of Women, and we have a boot camp where we teach women how to run for office and how politics impact women when they're running for office. And so I could take a little bit of credit for some of the success, but really it's women being bold enough, brave enough, and having enough courage to step out there and run, because you put yourself under a different exposure, a lens of exposure when you're running for office as a woman than you do when you're a man. And I'll just give you a few. Even since having been mayor, and I've been serving for nine years, 4 months, right? But since I've become mayor, I had a lady pull me to the side and said, "You need to get your clothes tailored." And I go, "Oh, okay." I thought, baby, my clothes are the last thing I'm worried about. I'm trying to make sure these babies get some food to eat and that we get some structure in our government, But of all the things that I had to say, that was the one that stuck out to her, that I need to get my clothes tailored. And I've had other people say things that could be, I had a friend, a real dear friend, say, well, if you're going to be in politics, who's going to keep your baby while you're out running around doing all this stuff? And I said, well, probably the same one that's going to keep your kids while you're
Yeah.
right. Well, it's like the kids got to be kept no matter what. So it is different when you're a woman, and that's why I created those spaces for people to be able to feel comfortable in.
Oh, great. But I mean, you created the space and you provide the blueprint. So, and a lot of the ladies that are in these different sectors, they go getters. And you gave them that blueprint. They stepped in there, and again, that confidence, you got the support. They took it and ran with it.
Yeah, and I've been fortunate that the women that I have elected to help, and I'm very selective when I elect to give advice to women. They have to ask me, and they have to be willing to listen, and they have to be willing to follow through. And I will give the advice, and I will remind them that I don't have to live the results. You do. So make the decision for you on what you want to do. And when I say they have to be willing to follow through, I will give them the perspective of both angles of government, the good and the bad. And then it's up to them to take that advice and to follow through. And I've helped both Democrat and Republican women because I believe in good government. And I also believe that not every Democrat has every answer and not every Republican has every answer. And in good government, it means that you're willing to listen and have cordial conversation so that you can come to a successful means or a successful end.
All right. Bipartisanship. Beautiful. You mentioned your 100 days, and we're going to wrap this up, but
Okay.
your 100 days, and you talked about everything that you had to do, going out meeting people, you being a politician. And then smack dab in the middle of that, probably coming up on what, 2.5 months in, we have a police involved shooting. And I'm just gonna say from my island where I said you handled that perfectly. I commend the way you came out and you handled it. I mean,
Thank you.
middle of the road. You didn't tilt this way, you didn't tilt that way, which we've seen in the past where people come out emotional one way and then things turn out differently. You stayed middle of the road. Everything you said was gonna happen happened. Hey, the city's gonna review this tape, the department, the family, then I release it to the public. Went in that order, and everybody got to see exactly what happened. Take us through your mind when that, something like that happens.
My first thought was to pray, ask for wisdom. Wisdom's the principal thing, and you get it liberally without reproach when you ask for it. My second thing, and always my go-to, is try to stay reasonable. I don't have the luxury, as other people do, to go into emotion or speculation. Because either one could be detrimental to our community. And while we had an absolute tragedy, the community was looking to me, both negatively and positively, to see how we would respond to that. And so for me, I moved slowly and methodically to make sure that I was being mindful of everything that was happening within the community, both present, past, and future. And we have a community that is hurting, and we need to be able to listen, stop, and think, because none of us were present. None of us knew what happened. And so I did not want to jump to conclusions. I wanted to serve the city of Fort Wayne.
Right.
And that's what I was focused on. That's what was running through my mind. And that's what runs through my mind right now. Some would agree with my approach. Some would have disagreed with my approach. I knew that it would take a community effort. So I knew right away that I needed to reach out to our community powerhouses, if you would, and have them on standby, have them on prayer standby, so that we could make sure that we are doing what we needed to do to protect our community.
All right, perfect. And last question. I know we just had the promotions of the police officers and graduating class and things. What's your expectations? What are some things you'd like to see moving forward with our police department?
Policing is probably one of the most misunderstood commodities that we have in the city. I'll share this with you. Someone asked me if I demoted the police officer that was involved in the police-involved shooting, and my answer was no. And my sadness was they don't understand how policing works. I don't have the authority. I don't have that authority. Police have a set of policies and principles that they operate under, the laws that are set by legislation and that they operate under, and based on those laws, that's what governs the way that they operate. And sometimes where our failure or our disappointments are is because we fail to understand what those laws are. And if people were more in tuned on what the laws that are governing the actions of police officers are, they would have a better understanding of that. And so what I would like to see happen in the city with our police is a rebuilding of trust and a better understanding of how the implementation of policing happens. Because what a lot of people don't remember, I was sitting next to an African-American police officer the other day when he was on my detail, and I was just looking at him, and I thought, a lot of people forget It's all of our community. It's all of our community. It's his community. It's the other officers' community. It's the citizens' community. This is everybody's community, and they're working within the guidelines that are given to them. And I think if we do a better job at helping citizens understand the guidelines that are given to them, it would make policing and policing relationships a lot easier.
Okay. Great answer. I'm going to allow you to have the last words, unless you would like that to be your last words. But I mean, this is your people. We have a viewing audience. We have a large following. What would you like to let the people know?
One of the things that I think that I would like people to know about me is that while I carry the title as mayor, I first carry the title as Christian, child of God, mom of Tiana, wife of Tim, and community advocate. I don't have a problem with making hard decisions. It's never been, and I don't even have a problem with having hard conversations. That's never been a downfall of mine either. I know that a lot of people are very concerned about who I am, and what I'm going to do. And I would just ask that you give me the liberty to create friendship, sisterhood, before you prejudge. Either way, what should be, what shouldn't be. My work that I've done, my historical past, has always been for the betterment of people. I've always been an underdog. Or always fought for the underdog. Anytime I got in trouble at school, it was because my mom had to come and get me because I was fighting for someone else. It was never because I created a problem or that I did the fighting, but I was taking up for someone else. And that's always going to be my plight. I'm concerned about making sure we create a city that is representative of everyone, and that everyone has an opportunity to see themselves in the success of Fort Wayne. I believe that it is my responsibility to create a community for all so that all can see themselves. Doesn't mean that everybody will take advantage of it. Just means that I have a role and responsibility to create it for everyone. And that's the way I want to govern. That's the way I want to lead. And if all God gives me are these 3 years of audition, then I want to do right by those 3 years. I'm hopeful that I'll have another 20, right? But if all that is 3, then I want to do right by those 3. Because even after a Mayor Tucker, I still have to live in Fort Wayne. I still want to be able to walk down the streets and be with you and all the people that we see. And I still want to be able to smile and have fun and give that hug just like I did yesterday. So that's what I would like people to know.
Yeah, all right. That's beautiful. Hey, you guys heard it. Mayor Sharon Tucker, everything that she said, she's from the community. She's of the community. So everything she said, I can vouch for it. And, I've had candidates on here. I've had people in office. And I'm out here just like the viewers. Who is this person? Trying to get to know him. The difference with Mayor Tucker, I do know her. Her track record speaks for itself. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I work with her at the bank, whether it's Vincent Village, whether it's her work, in the 6th District. It's about all people, not one segment of the community. It's about all people. But if I ever had more confidence in somebody, this person right here, I have the utmost confidence that she can get the job done. She's going to do what's best for Fort Wayne. She could be another great leader. Let's keep her in there. Get her as many years as Tom Henry had. Keep doing the great work that you're doing.
Thank you.
You have our support. And with that said, ONV, Fort Wayne Up Close, we're out of here.
Thank you.